حور العين تناديني فدعيني أماه دعيني لتبكي دموعك يا أمي عن دربي لا لن تثنيني حور العين تناديني فدعيني أماه دعيني لتبكي دموعك يا أمي عن دربي لا لن تثنيني.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let's make dua and start inshallah. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma anta as-salam wa minka as-salam tabarakta ya dhal jalali wal ikram. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina wa shafi'ina wa habibina wa maulana Muhammad wa barik wa sallam. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Allahumma rabbana zidna ilman nafi'a wa 'amalan mutaqabbala wa rizqan wasi'a wa shifaa'a min kulli daa. فسبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. We're going to continue our topic on some of the challenges Islam and Muslims in the modern world, and we have reached the point of some of the challenges that the Muslims face in the modern world and its solutions. And one of the points that we are discussing now is the aspect of the thinking of the Muslims in the present world. The way we think and the way we carry about ourselves in relationship to Islam in the modern world. And in this discussion we had looked at the ayat of Quran in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions Udu ila sabili rabbik bil hikmati wal maw'idatul hasana wa jadil billati ahsan inna rabbaka huwal a'lamu biman dhalla an sabilihi wa huwa a'lamu bil muhtadin. In this ayat in Surah Nahl, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Muslims to invite unto the way of your Lord with hikmah, with wisdom. And that's one of the points we're going to come to and discuss just after we finish out the idea of what is the knowledge and the base of the ummah. Wal maw'idatu, and an exhortation towards goodness and to repel that which is bad, or to debate in the best manner possible. For certainly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all-knower of who goes astray from his path, and he knows who are guided. In this ayat, he tells us clearly that Muslims have to have a level of knowledge and ability, hikmah, wisdom in dealing with the way we live and the things that surround us in our lives. And we had reached on page 14 of our discussion, where we looked at what are the necessities that surrounds the Muslim life, and their knowledge base is needed in its survival and in the way we carry about ourselves. So it tells us here that necessities are the matters that the worldly and religious life depends upon. Necessities are such matters in the worldly life that religious life depends upon. In other words, we are told as well that this deen is like a ship on the ocean. We cannot do without this deen. We cannot do without the ocean, this world, for our survival of our deen. We are human beings, and our living on the face of this earth is absolutely essential and dependent on the affairs of the world. So we must work, we must acquire the necessities of the world in order for us to survive. Absent to this, you will never be able to survive. So you are never told to what? Live in isolation. However, the ability in its acquisition and its ability of how much of and to what depth we should find ourselves involved in it, and to what extent, is also guided by the laws of the Quran, which tell us what is halal and what is haram in terms of its acquisition. And therefore, these necessities must be understood. So therefore, the omission leads to unbearable hardship in this life. A person says, I don't want to do nothing with this world, and he decides to go and live in isolation, he's going to actually suffer, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not put these things in the world except for a means of sustenance for us. Allah didn't tell us to deprive ourselves of it. So we don't omit ourselves from it, but we don't get ourselves stuck in it. So there are 5 necessities and the preservation of our religion, our way of life. And these are the religion, life, intellect, our lineage, and wealth. These are the necessities that surround us in our daily life, our deen. That is our essential and prime purpose on the face of the earth. To obey the commands of Allah, because Allah, that's the purpose Allah created us for. So that's the prime objective of life. Not the last one, the first one, our deen. And then after that is our life. It's to preserve the life in order to what? Fulfill this right and obligation. So our life in itself is not just a mere, existence for no purpose, but it must be utilized properly. So a healthy life, maintaining the condition of our life is also important. Our intellect, our ability to utilize what Allah has given us, this physical being and life and this body, there is also an intellect in it. It tells us how to use, how to think, how to function, how to walk, how to do things. That intellect is part of our being and existence. Our lineage, we connect and we make that level of vicegerency by having population and growth and family life. This is part of what human beings are all about. This is a next aspect of our lives that we must understand is essential for a human race to survive and for the ummah to survive. That relationship with our spouses and our homes and our family and our community must survive. If that does not survive, then we will not survive. And therefore, as a ummah, we have to what? Ensure that that part of our community exists and exists in the right way. So it is our duty to protect our lineage and, of course, our wealth. Our wealth meaning that which we have acquired as a means to do the things that we want to do in the instances before. So these are what are basically the essentials for us. And these ensure individual and social welfare in this life and in the hereafter. This is what we need for this life as well as the hereafter. Without these things, there is no way of us continuing and having survival, even in this life. So Islam, as you know, take care of all of these things. And this is what the fitrah, the natural way of life is. So the Sharia protects these necessities in two ways. Firstly, by ensuring their establishment and their preservation, or ensuring that they are preserved. These are part of the Sharia and the law. So it comes to our deen that Islam covers all of these things. And so we are told the first one, religion, our deen. How does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring this into the forefront? Is to ensure the establishment of religion. Allah Most High has made belief and worship obligatory. In other words, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Quran tells us, well, I have not created men and jinn except that they worship me. And that's the obligation we have firstly. So, in this essence, this is one of the primary purpose of our creation. To ensure its preservation, the ruling relating to the obligation of learning and conveying the religion were legislated as well. Meaning to say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to us messenger. وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He has sent to every nation. Surah An-Nahl, Surah 16, verse 36. وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا إِنْ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ, so that they will worship Allah and follow their messenger. Follow their messenger. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in preservation of the religion, would have sent a messenger. And this would have been from the very beginning of the creation of the human beings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continued to give guidance to them on the face of this earth. And that means our ultimate success, coming to the last prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And sometimes I feel we miss this point. We miss the fact that we think that we exist without the guidance and the fellowship and the following of our beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sometimes I think we exist without this. We think that Islam and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's no correlation anymore because we have lost the sunnah and the life and the way that we are told about what the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with. And that is what our mainstay is. If this is not part of our life today in our society, then what is going to be lost in the world? Deen, religion. If we do not have a connection to the Quran and Allah, and we don't have a connection to the Messenger of Allah, the first amongst these primary list of necessities will be our deen, and it will be eroded. So our preservation of this means our preservation of our deen. And in line with this is our life. Our life. To ensure the preservation of human life, Allah Most High legislated for marriage, healthy eating and living, and forbid the taking of life, and laid down punishment for doing so. The Quran is all about the preservation of life. Life is an essential gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a gift. Don't think that your life is something by the way. It is a special gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you are blessed with Iman, it makes it even better than that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, He says to us, He says, وَأَنْفِقُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَلَا تَلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى تَهْلُكَةِ أحسنوا إن الله يحب المحسنين. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, and spend in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and do not throw yourselves into destruction, and do not put yourselves in harm's way. He says spend in the path of Allah and do not put yourself in harm's way. What this really tells us? A person and an individual has the right of spending in the manner that Allah has ordained in the Quran for spending. One thing is to have wealth, and the other thing is to what? Spend wealth. And we are told how to earn halal and also to spend on halal. We just cannot think that this is my money, I can spend how I feel to spend. No, Allah also tells us how to also spend the wealth that He has given to us. So sometimes we lose direction in understanding that our wealth, while it might be ours, in terms of what we earn, Allah is the one who has blessed us with it. So He says to us, وَأَنْفِقُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, spend in the path of Allah, and do not lose or throw yourself into destruction, إِلَى تَهْلُكَ. And He says, وَأَحْسِنُوا, do good, وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Allah loves those who do good. So in this respect, the Quran is also telling us that our ability of the preservation of life is also important. It also tells us in the Quran, in respect of food, of what is pure and halal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, وَلَحْمِ مِمَّا that the meat which is pure, and eat of that which is pure, and then of the birds and the fresh meat, good meat, halal meat, pure meat, good meat, healthy meat. Then it tells us about وَفَاكِيَةٍ firstly, وَفَاكِيَةٍ مِمَّا يَتَخَيَّرُونَ وَلَحْمِ طَيْرٍ مِمَّا وَالْفَاكِيَةٍ مِمَّا يَتَخَيَّرُونَ وَلَحْمِ طَيْرٍ مِمَّا يَشْتَهُونَ. And it tells us about eating healthy fruits and healthy meat. So fruits come first, and then it's the meats. Even in our diets, that's part of our nature. We should be actually having some fruits in the morning and that kind of thing, and then having some meat in the afternoon. But healthy food, not some of the type of food we see in the world today. And the alarming, statistics that shows how many dangers lie in the type of food that we see today. And people had just recently, we had a recall of some type of canned food, because of what? Being packaged and being spoiled. And there are many other things that we don't even know about that comes towards us that is probably in the worst of condition, and yet we want to what? Consume of these things. So we have to be mindful of it, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, make sure you eat healthy. Because Allah provides healthy stuff for us to eat on the face of the earth. But it's what we make of ourselves. Then He tells us about our intellect as part of the essentials. He says, Allah has permitted that sound intellect and knowledge be promoted, and forbidden that which corrupts or weakens it. And that is our society today. That which corrupts and weakens our mind, such as alcohol and drugs. He has also imposed preventative punishment in order that people stay away from them, because a sound intellect is the basis for the moral responsibility that human beings were given. Now, many of us go with the idea that drugs and alcohol is the only thing that have affected our minds. But today it is sad to say our phones are just like drugs and alcohol. We have become addicted to the phone. And I mean, I'm talking about taking a phone call, I'm talking about the things that we use the phone for today. Not just the calls, Because if you take back a normal, simple phone, all right, thank God, you could still people might take advantage of talking all day. But today, the phone is used as an amusement. Children are addicted to it. You take it off them, they get vexed, they become angry, they want it, they can't do without it. It's an addiction. So today, not only the drugs, even the internet, the system of what we call in the world today, that is an addiction for us. And that is mentioned to us as well as an addiction. So these things affect our intellect, our ability to think. In other words, it takes away from the real, true essence of developing a healthy mind. Because our minds can be corrupted by these means. Not just the drugs, not just the alcohol, but by the addiction of the things that we see. And the sickness and all the different types of things that you'll see on the phone today. People spend time looking at wrong things, pornography and all different types of things and music, and get involved in so many wrong things on the phone and on the internet. Whilst that damages our mind. And what does it say? You think it's any other person except we ourselves in our own community who believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our own children are involved in these things. And we know that, and we know how difficult it is to keep them away from the phone. And it's a challenge for us. So whilst you might say they don't drink and they don't smoke and they don't involve in drugs, but they're also involved in this addiction, games, playing. All of their time is going and they will not even be conscious of their prayer, about reading Quran, about doing some important work for the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they're involved in this. If you give a child a chance, whole day will spend on a game. And they will never find the time went. They will never think that that time has gone in vain. Sometimes they will not even eat because they are lost in this addiction. So this is one of the primary destruction of the ummah today, our intellect, our ability to think clearly, because it has become befogged not just by alcohol or drugs, but by the persuasion and the bombardment of television, out of the phone, out of the internet, out of all these different types of mediums that we use to look and to entertain and to occupy our time. So that is one of those things that destroys us. And we are told in the Quran about it. It says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, you believe, innamal khamru wal maisaru wal ansabu wal azlamu rijsum minash shaitan. That wine and gambling and the idols and those things that surround those things, all of them are rijsum minash shaitan. They are a touch from the shaitan. It is what the shaitan brings to us as an amusement and as a beauty. Fajtanibuhu. So keep yourselves away from it. La'allakum tuflihun. Perhaps you will have success out of that. Perhaps you will get success. That is if you hold away from that. And that the next important point to be mentioned here is that of lineage. Among the 5 essential lineage. Marriage was legislated for the preservation of lineage, and sexual relation outside of marriage was forbidden. Punitive laws were put in place in order to ensure the preservation of lineage and the continuation of human life. That is part of the principle of our deen, that we have a laqab, we have a title, and that is also told to us in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, it says in Surah 17, it says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا إِنَّهُ كَانَ فَاحِشَةً وَسَاءَ سَبِيلًا. That do not come close towards that relationship that is illegal, for it is indeed shameful. And it turns us away from the deen. So in this ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us of the dangers out of relationship marriages, out of marriage. So these are the 5 essential things. These essential things are what makes and comprise and the success of our human progeny, our life, our success on the face of this earth as well as in the hereafter. So we require knowledge in all fronts of life in order to survive. On these 5 fronts of life, if you do not have that ability to recognize the importance for religion, life, intellect, and lineage, these necessities, these matters, if you cannot recognize these matters and seek knowledge on the front of these things, then something is going to happen to our society. As I mentioned, our deen, if we do not build up our deen, we are going to have a destruction of our deen. Today we are seeing how our deen is being eroded. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions again in the Quran, وَيَرَى الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ الَّذِينَ أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ هُوَ الْحَقُّ وَيَهْدِي إِلَى الصِّرَاطِ الْعَزِيزِ الْحَمِيدِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Al-Sabah, that's Surah number Sabah, Surah Sabah verse 6, that He mentions, and وَيَرَى الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ. When you see those people whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given ilm, knowledge to, unzila ilayka, that was revealed to you, the messenger, min rabbikum, from your Lord, huwa haqqun, and you know it is truth, wa yahdi ila siratil aziz al hamid. This leads towards the path that of which is the preserved one, the pure one. This is going to lead towards that. Huwa al haqqu ila siratil aziz al hamid, the one that is most mighty and wise, the preserved, most preserved and pure way. Whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given ilm to, and understand what this ayat is telling us, that the knowledge is essential for the preservation of our deen, our way of life, our family, our acquisition of wealth and our spending of our wealth, our life, our intellect. Knowledge is essential. So Allah is saying that that one who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given ilm to, those people who have adopted what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent from your Lord to His messenger, adopt this, huwa haqqun, it is the truth, wa yahdi ila siratil aziz al hamid. It leads towards that path which is most pure. Mostly, as you're saying, it is the most pure way. But to attain that which is pure, one must have this level of ilm and knowledge. Today, people talk off their heads without having the knowledge of deen. Everybody know Islam today. Everybody think they know Islam today. But we are far from what this is. We are far from understanding what Islam requires from us in society today. For if everyone who says we know Islam today as Islam should be, then we will never have confrontation and we will never have conflicts. But today, one of the biggest things is that our egos and our ignorance takes over. Our ego and our ignorance take over our deen. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in this ayat of Quran, preservation of our deen is dependent on our knowledge. And this is evident from the life of the Sahabas radiallahu ta'ala anhum in the time of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that their differences were resolved with the Messenger of Allah, with the understanding of this deen, and even if they had differences of opinion, it was that they would still work together in harmony for this deen. Not that we all have the same level of thinking, we have things in a different way, but that doesn't mean to say that we cannot what? Work. And that is what the Quran is telling us here, that you should have that level of understanding at this point. So we require knowledge on all the fronts of life. This does not mean we study every type of sciences or social and political skill, etc., individually, but rather we pool our knowledge together into formulating the best way forward for the ummah to handle the challenges and the changes and the challenges the ummah faced every day as we move on. If we cannot pool our knowledge and our understanding together in all the different sciences and all of the different conditions that surround our life today and make informed decisions, we are going to be like headless chickens, frantic, about to die. Because this is what the ummah looks like today. Only when we're in pain, then we bawl. When we see others being persecuted, then we want to say something. We don't know what to do. We cannot function. We have not been able to take a grip because we have not made, as an ummah, an informed decision. And we'll come to the point of trying to understand the word ummah. If we ask ourselves, which ummah do you belong to? Which ummah do you really belong to? Everybody who have different opinion in the same circle say we belong to the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yeah, right. We could say that. All of us would say that. But it doesn't seem so. Because if we're on the same ship and we're on the same ummah, then we're supposed to be sailing in the same direction. But all of us seem to be trying to go in different directions and think we're going in the same direction. So what kind of ummah is this? What type of a ummah we really talk about? So we'll come to that point. So today scholars of deen are pushed in the direction of studying different branches of knowledge. And this is one of the things today that is happening in the world, subhanAllah. Today the scholars of deen are pushed into the direction of studying different branches of knowledge in order to support their communities with suitable answers and solutions to the challenges that they face in the modern societies. Today you can no longer sit as a scholar and tell yourself you know Quran as Quran and Hadith as Hadith without understanding the implementation and its implication in the society that you live in. If you cannot implement your Quran and Sunnah in the society that you live in, how can you direct your family? How can you direct your community? How can you direct anyone with an answer that is going to make an informed decision in the situation that they face today? So today, scholars are no longer just studying one aspect of deen. The deen have many shu'ab branches. You must understand that Islam, in its Sharia, in its Indhar and its Basharat and all of the different things that the Quran has, you must know that the scholars of deen over 1400 years ago from the time of the Prophet ﷺ, after that, the time 300 years after the compilation of Hadith and all the different Sharia and the laws started to take effect. Till then, till now, there has been improvement in the way that knowledge is being articulated and brought to the Ummah on their needs basis. Yes, the challenge is there. The weakness of the Ummah today is that they have failed in the relationship that they will have with their scholars. They have failed in their relationship with their scholars. And even there are scholars as well who are bought off by rich people who will communicate and debate with other scholars as to who is right and who is wrong because of political interests. And that's the next weakness in the Ummah itself when it comes to the relationship of knowledge. So we have paid for alims, scholars of deen, whose pockets are being filled at the price of the deen. Which is sad to see, it is really sad to see that condition exist amongst us. So yes, we have made breakthroughs till today. Hence, it is no exaggeration to say that the Muslims themselves are showing a similar interest in studying the reality of Islam in order to show to what extent they may be able to adopt modern ways without losing their religion. In other words, if you live in a society like this today, people ask you, could I involve in this business transaction? Yes or no? They want to do business because that is the world you live in. You live in an environment. I wonder if my son or my daughter can study this particular field of studies. Is it okay for them to study this? These are issues that are continuously being brought to our attention. How to live and adapt to situations that exist before us, whether it is going to compromise the deen. So in recent times, there have been two parties among the Muslims. One, maintaining the religion should be sacrificed for the sake of modernization. And the other, that modernization should be sacrificed for the sake of religion. So what is going to happen? One group saying, that outdated, we have to live with life now according to how things are. The next group is saying that if we do that, we're going to lose our religion. So if we sit on either side of the fence, you're going to end up with what? Two parties who actually what? Fight each other and destroy each other. Because one is going opposite to the other. But between these two groups, there is now a third group. And we must know these things are happening amongst us. Whose number is increasing, which sees a possibility of a reconciliation between the modern life and the old religion, as we would say. That there's a way that we can pool our ability to survive in an environment. And in fact, we should always ask ourselves, can Islam survive in the society that we live in? Can Islam survive in the society that we live in? Can a Muslim live as a Muslim in the society that we live in? Is it possible? And how can we determine that? What is the yardstick to determine our survival in the society that we live in? Because we are also told clearly by the Prophet ﷺ concerning the end of time and what the conditions will be before us, and whether or not we can survive those conditions is very challenging for us. And many times you don't even ask these questions, whether the climate and the conditions before us is conducive for Islam and Muslims to live. Is the environment ideal for us? Do we have what it takes to be Muslim in a society that we live in? Or what does Islam require from us in the environment that we live in today? And many of us do not have an answer to this. We do not have an answer to this because, and it's not more of the older people, it's more of the younger people who's going to be affected by this. Because the environment that they are brought up in and the environment that they are shown compared to the environment that was given to the people of the older age and in Islam, it was much more what? Adaptable and much more easy. But for us who grow in the area where there is so much complications and fitting around us, we see it as almost impossible to live the Islam that our forefathers would have lived in the condition that they would have been able to live it in. Whether we are weaker or whether or not the circumstances of our life have changed. Many times long ago we used to always make statements of people who want to practice religion and live according to the Sunnah. We used to tell them instead of driving a car, why they ride a camel or something instead. We used to make these type of statements, but never really understood what is really the circumstances when we make that statement, what we're really saying. What are we really telling people? When we tell them ride a camel, if that's where you feel Islam is, and you go drive a car, what do you think you're really trying to tell that person? Apart from the embarrassment or the insult or whatever it may be, what is the message you're actually giving? You are telling him that Islam, according to you, what you are practicing, wearing a jubbah or doing something like that, at that time you're telling him, better you ride a camel too. You're telling him that Islam is not practicable in the way that you wanted to live in the society that you're living in today. If that is the message that we want to send. Understand what I'm saying? This is the condition that is before us in that mentality, in that thinking. So if we, at that point in time, 10 or 20 years ago, would make such a statement, what do we leave for the children of today to think about us? This is the danger of how we have become in a state of actually trying to understand how should we adopt in a society that we live in today, and is Islam practical for our children, or have we given them adequate measurement to live in? And therefore, the modern Muslim thinkers find in the principles of Islam a flexibility which allows them to explain and interpret with the great freedom while they still keeping the faith intact. And that is why today it's an important part that we understand the integration of our society and our knowledge, secular and Islamic, in its integration. If that is not there, we're going to have a great fall. So today, we have seen great transition by Islamic institutions in the Western countries, incorporating the secular studies alongside the Islamic studies and moral training to enhance the skill sets of their students to be better equipped to fit modern societies today. We see that these students have degrees in secular branches of studies, be it medicine, law, engineering, politics, etc., and a whole wide range of faculties, along with a degree in Islamic studies. Why? Because that is what society needs today. That is what society needs today. If you grow up an alim or an imam in your community and they do not have a skill set today with these things, you're actually handicapped, weak. Because you're going to be faced with situations and challenges, and you will not know how to correlate these sciences along and know that this is just nothing new to Islam, while people will think that Islam is this way and this is that way. No. Islam incorporates all of these things, but it must be explained and shown that there is room for it. So this is one of the trend of studies that must take place in society today. Because if you only do on one side, you'll end up with 1 foot walking all the way. And to survive on 1 foot is a very difficult and challenging thing. You'll always need something to prop you up. And that is what we have today. Lots of props. While this is happening, the scale at which it is taking place is small in number, and this is very small in number. Therefore, Muslim parents, adults, individuals, and children have to all come on the broad side so that we can once more come on stream with the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ in regards to seeking knowledge and conveying that knowledge of deen, religion, as we will be more conscious of our Creator, and we will be able to apply our deen and convey its message in our workplace and in any environment that we serve in. And that is the lack of Muslims today. They will go into a job site, they'll go to their jobs, but they cannot say one thing about Islam. In fact, they are so much bombarded by the Western culture and the work culture that they themselves fall into alignment with friends and alcohol. And your good son, you give a good education to your good daughter, you give a good education. And before you know it, by the end of 2 years, their whole life and Islam gone through the back door. Gone. Because we didn't understand the combination and the importance of sound Islamic knowledge along with sound secular education. So time spent by scholars and individuals to debate issues in religion that caters for differences of opinion in order to see whose opinion is stronger in debate, and writing is time lost in dealing with more critical issues. And that's some of the sickness we have in our society with some scholars today. All they can find time to do is to criticize this organization because we don't follow this and I want to follow that. And their whole life, they're sickening their whole communities with it. Wasting time. It has so much serious issues to deal with, and yet we find time. Big men who spend their whole life studying will study these points. I'm not saying that they should not be highlighted, but you shouldn't go and bombard your entire community with something and trivial issues while you have thousands of children and women and young men and women, their whole lives have been thrown away. And you're studying which point of fiqh is more better to use. Which point of fiqh is better to use? And thousands of our children and our family lives have been destroyed, and we have no time for that. And they are purposely built to do this. Whether you are muqallid or ghayr muqallid, it is a sickness in our society that is destroying us. So it is as though the inside of your house is on fire and you are arguing about who should throw the water while someone is trying to burn it on the outside. You're fighting amongst yourself and people burning you on the outside too, but you have time for the outside fire, you still have time for the inside fire yet. That is the nature and the sickness that we are living with. Where are we going to find time for deen? Where will we find time for the real deen and the real Islam that we are brought up with? If you look over the years, and I have seen my own self, the level and the nature of destruction among so many organizations, that they kill one another in this society that we live in our own society, fighting over these type of issues, and the real essence of our family have gone. The real essence have gone because time was wasted on the wrong thing. Time was wasted on the wrong thing. And so, this is what is happening to us. We are on fire on the inside and on the outside. And we can't even figure out which one we should deal with to tackle. And in this condition, this outside fire is on us as well. No one is paying attention to this. No one. The next important aspect we have to look at is knowledge with hikmah. We understand the essential of these 5 aspects of it, but knowledge with hikmah is what we lack today in society. Knowledge with hikmah. And what is hikmah? Hikmah is what the Quran tells us to deal with. Udu ila sabili rabbik bil hikmah. It says, invite onto the way of Allah with hikmah. Wa maw'idatul hasana. So the ayah tells us that we should invite onto the way of Allah with hikmah. So this is an essential quality for the betterment of our lives. And today the system of hikmah, the knowledge, the way, that hikmah is no longer there. Many people know, they have knowledge, they think they know. But the real thing, they don't know. They don't feel Iman. Somebody can describe prayer to you. They write books and so much booklets you'll get every time you go to a function. booklets on Salah, booklets on the most virtues of all, the most virtuous surahs you should read, everyday routine surahs. You get booklets on dhikr, you get booklets on so much things, everybody giving booklets. Knowledge like that in books. But that knowledge in action, the hikmah of it is not in our lives. And everybody who go to them functions in the same boat. I'm afraid to say it because none of us implement it. Why print something about the deen that has some level to benefit our akhlaq and our hikmah and our ability and yet do nothing about it? That's what we are living in. You think that the blessing is in what? Given the book? You think the blessing is given in the book? Or the blessing is in its implementation? You hope that these people would use this book. Because if you print a book and you give somebody the book and they put it on the shelf, is the next dust that they have to deal with. Because I'm sure in many of our homes we have the same book and the same type of books, 10, 20, 30 of them pack up. Everybody you go given one. They ask what you should do good. What is a good deed to do for those who passed on? Print a book. Print a book. And that's the solution. We're far from the solution. We're far from the solution for the dead, far less for the living. Because the knowledge is right where it is, right in the book. When it should be in the hearts. So the hikmah today is no longer where it is. It's gone. It's supposed to be within us. We should be feeling the effects of these things. We should understand how it feels to read 5 times daily salah and what is the effects of 5 times daily salah, and we could explain how we feel about it. So when we read a hadith of the Prophet that talks about 5 times daily salah and the rewards of it and how you feel about it, you know how that feel. You know how that feel. That is the hikmah. That is the wisdom, man. That tells you that once you learn that and you feel that, you will never want to part from that. That is hikmah. And you would want that other people feel the same way. You understand that is your savior, that is your protection, that is your strength. So hikmah is the foundation that guides us. And what is the purpose of hikmah? What is the purpose of a swimmer learning the practicals of swimming rather than the theory of swimming? What is the purpose of a swimmer after learning the theory of swimming, learns the practical of swimming? What is the reason? What is the hikmah behind it? It's because without having that ability to swim, that knowledge has no value. He can't go anywhere with it. Can't function with it. He can't save a life. He can't save your own life. He cannot save anything. He can't do anything by the means of what? Swimming. He cannot make any means out of swimming. Because there is no hikmah, there is no wisdom, there is no benefit. You do not understand why you learn to swim in the first place. Like people learning to pray, teach somebody about salah, and they have no interest in salah. What is the purpose of teaching salah if there is no interest in salah? You tell a whole gathering about salah and all the masail and all the laws about salah. Everything about salah, all the virtues of salah, and they're not praying. What is the purpose of it? What is the purpose of all of that? How is it going to benefit anyone? There is no benefit. And that's what some of our functions are like. They are all about that. Talk. Kalam, talk. And by the time you leave, all that talk done. So all the beautiful bayans and lectures and all these things, subhanallah, the hikmah of it and the wisdom of it has not yet implemented in our hearts. So today in society, why do you think we need to have hikmah? But that we'll leave it. I'll leave you with this question for next class. Why do you think we need to have hikmah, especially today? What is the use of this hikmah? Why do you think you need to have salat in your life effectively today? Why you need it? Why you need to have your Quran in your life down pack? Why you need to have your zakat properly well in order? Why do you think you have to do your fasting effectively when you could do it? Why? What you need from it? What does it do for you? What is the hikmah out of it? And why no? That's something we have to answer. Let's think about it, inshallah. In the next class, we're going to get to this point. We're going to get to this point why we need hikmah, inshallah. So let's make dua, inshallah. We close. Allahumma ameen. اللهم انت السلام ومنك السلام تباركت يا ذا الجلال والاكرام. اللهم صل على سيدنا وشفيعنا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنه وفي الاخره حسنه وقنا عذاب النار. سبحان ربك رب العزه عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. آمين.
حور العين تناديني فدعيني أماه دعيني، لتبكي دموعك يا أمي عن دربي لا لن تثنيني. أماه طريقي قد وضحى والقلب يسير به فرحا، حرب وجهاد متقد ودم بالعزة قد نضحا. حور العين تناديني